What is up guys, my name is Ignas, welcome back to the channel. We have started looking into semiconductor names, and today the focus will be Qualcomm. They are currently in the process of buying an automotive technology company in order to get into a new industry. This is what CNBC has on the topic.
SSW Partners is going to acquire Veoneer. It's basically, they're doing it at the same time that they're then going to take the Arriver business. This is the business Qualcomm wanted, and Qualcomm's going to buy that. So total value of the deal is about $4.5 billion. Qualcomm's providing all the financing. They'll take Arriver, and then what's left of Veoneer, which is a lot of the other stuff they make for tier one auto suppliers, things, Jim, this will be owned by SSW and then probably end up at a strategic owner of the business at some point in the future. It cuts the regulatory time frame here, so they are talking about it being cheaper. But most importantly, it makes Qualcomm a competitor to Intel's Mobileye on advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS. The key here is this Arriver business. It's a software stack that will then go with Qualcomm's chips, and they will sell this to OEMs along the likes of, we're talking about EV. Well, we also talk, of course, about automated driving. And they will sell this to a lot of the OEMs and compete directly against Intel's Mobileye in terms of landing some of those deals.
So the buyout will help Qualcomm on expanding into new industries and compete with other huge semiconductor players. I have added 2 more names, and for today's comparison we have Broadcom, ticker symbol AVGO, Texas Instruments, TXN, and Qualcomm, ticker QSOM. In order to make the comparison possible, we will be looking into 9 different factors. Last 4 quarterly earnings results, annual revenue growth, analysts price targets, forward price to earnings ratio, price to sales ratio, return on equity, current ratio, dividend yield, and dividend payout ratio. The best company under each factor will get a point, so it is possible to have from 0 to 9 points, and in the end the stock with the most points will be considered the winner of this comparison. I understand that it may be tough to sit through 10 minutes of numbers, so I'll just bring the results up front for you to take a look into. These are here the results, and out of those Broadcom got 3 points, Texas Instruments 0, and Qualcomm 5. So with 5 points, Qualcomm is considered the winner of this comparison. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and if you are still interested, then continue on with the analysis. The first factor is the last 4 quarterly earnings results. When a company reports earnings, they are compared to expectations of analysts. So earnings can either beat expectations, meet them, or miss them. We will consider that beating expectations is a +1, meeting +0.5, and missing 0. Then we sum the results up to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 4, and in the end the stock with the highest sum gets a point for this factor. So these are quarterly earnings for Broadcom, and Q2 of 2020 beat expectations, Q1 of 2021 beat, Q2 beat, and Q3 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we get a sum of 4. Earnings for Texas Instruments, and Q3 of 2020 beat expectations, Q4 beat, Q1 of 2021 beat expectations, and Q2 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we again get a sum of 4. Quarterly earnings for Qualcomm, and Q3 of 2020 beat expectations, Q4 beat, Q1 of 2021 beat expectations, and Q2 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we again get a sum of 4. Results for the last 4 quarterly earnings factor are in the table, and with equal sums of 4, the point is not assigned. Second factor is the annual revenue growth. As investors, we want to find that the revenues of a company are on a steady increase. We will take a look into the revenues of the 4 most recent years and compare them one by one. If revenue was on the increase from one year to the next, we will consider it as a +1, and if it was on the decrease, it will be a +0. Then we sum the results up to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 3, and in the end the stock with the highest sum gets a point for this factor. So these are annual revenues for Broadcom, and going into 2018 there was an increase to $20.85 billion US, then into 2019 we had an increase to $22.6 billion, and into 2020 we had another increase to $23.89 billion. So with 3 increases in annual revenues, we get a sum of 3. Annual revenues for Texas Instruments, and going into 2018 there was an increase to $15.78 billion US, then into 2019 we had a decrease to $14.38 billion, and into 2020 there was an increase to $14.46 billion. So with 2 increases and 1 decrease in annual revenues, we get a a sum of 2. Annual revenues for Qualcomm, and going into 2018 there was an increase to $22.61 billion US, then into 2019 we had an increase to $24.27 billion, and into 2020 there was a decrease to $23.53 billion. So with 2 increases and 1 decrease in annual revenues we get a sum of 2. Results for the annual revenue growth factor are in the table, and with a sum of 3 Broadcom gets the first point. Next factor are the analysts' price targets. As potential investors, we want to find that the current share price is below the average price target of analysts. If the current price is in fact under the average, we will consider the stock as undervalued, and the company with share price is furthest away from the average analyst target to the lower side gets a point for this factor. So for Broadcom we have 30 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $475 to the highs of $600 per share. The average is at $559.20, and the current share price is at $522.24. This means that there is still around 7.1% of room for the current price to reach the average target of analysts. For Texas Instruments, we also have 30 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $155 to the highs of $250 per share. The average is at $204.76, and the current share price is at $201.78. So there is around 1.5% of room for the current price to reach the average target of analysts. For Qualcomm, we again have 30 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $137 to the highs of $303 per share. The average is at $108.05, and the current share price is at $132.20. So there is still around 36.2% room for the current price to reach the average target of analysts. Results for the analysts' price targets factor are in the table, and with most room for growth, Qualcomm gets the first point. Factor number 4 is the forward price-to-earnings ratio. It is calculated by taking the current share price and dividing it by the estimated future earnings per share. This is the standard price-to-earnings calculation with the difference that earnings here are predicted by analysts. So in the end, the stock with the lowest forward price-to-earnings ratio gets a point for this factor. Broadcom has a forward price-to-earnings at 16.86. Forward price-to-earnings for Texas Instruments is at 24.10, and Qualcomm has a forward price-to-earnings at 14.41. Forward price-to-earnings ratios are in the table, and with the lowest value, Qualcomm gets another point. Next factor is the price-to-sales ratio. It is calculated by taking the company's market cap and dividing it by the trailing 12 months worth of sales. The formula suggests to be looking for a company with a low market cap and a high result in sales. So in the end, the stock with the lowest price-to-sales ratio gets a point for this factor. For Broadcom, the price-to-sales is at 8.32. Price-to-sales for Texas Instruments is at 11.09, and Qualcomm has a price-to-sales at 4.65. Price-to-sales ratios are in the table, and with the lowest value, another point goes to Qualcomm. Factor number 6 is return on equity. The percentage here shows how well the company is managed and if money from investors are efficiently handled. So in the end, the stock with the highest return on equity percentage gets a point for this factor. Broadcom has return on equity at 25.32%. Return on equity for Texas Instruments is at 71.55%. And Qualcomm has return on equity at 160.32%. Return on equity percentages are in the table, and with the highest percentage, Qualcomm gets another point. Next factor is the current ratio. It is calculated by taking the current assets and dividing them by the current liabilities. As investors, we want to find that the company is able to cover its debts with assets, but also that they're actually being leveraged. So in the end, the stock with the highest current ratio under 3 gets a point for this factor. Broadcom has the current ratio at 2.4. Current ratio for Texas Instruments is at 5.08, and Qualcomm has the current ratio at 1.72. Current ratios are in the table, and with the highest value under 3, Broadcom gets another point. Factor number 7 is the dividend yield. It is calculated by taking the annual dividend per share and dividing it by the share price. A high yield may suggest that the company is sharing profits with shareholders, and that is a great passive income source that we as investors are looking for. So in the end, the stock with the highest dividend yield percentage gets a point for this factor. Broadcom is paying an annual dividend of $14.40 per share, which is a yield of 2.79%. Dividends for Texas Instruments is at $4.50 $2.60 per share, which is a yield of 2.41%. And Qualcomm is paying an annual dividend of $2.72, and that is a yield of 2.07%. Dividend yields are in the table, and with the highest percentage, Broadcom gets 1 more point. The last factor is the payout ratio. It is calculated by taking the total amount of dividends and dividing it by the net income. A lower ratio suggests that the company is able to sustain its dividends and then also have plenty of cash to reinvest back into the business. So in the end, the company with the lowest payout ratio percentage gets a point for this factor. Broadcom has the payout ratio at 104.07%. Payout ratio for Texas Instruments is at 55.23%, and Qualcomm has the payout ratio at 32.88%. Dividend payout ratios are in the table, and with the lowest percentage, Qualcomm gets another point. And that was it. If you got value or new ideas, then make sure to push that thumbs up, it helps the channel a lot. If you're looking for the results, you need to go back, I've put them just before the analysis. Now I have a question for you, which semiconductor stocks are you buying into? Share your best pick in a comment below. If you're interested in getting notified exactly when I buy or sell any stock, then consider memberships. By becoming a member, you will get access to Discord, where I share the stock watchlist and all the buys and sells exactly when I do them. This could be a great option to track my moves closely. Last week we did a stock comparison on 3 largest semiconductor companies, and there is also an update for our technical analysis and eToro stock trading portfolio. If you are interested in any of these, then click on the video currently on the screen. And that was it from my side, thank you for watching, and I will be seeing y'all in the next one.